President Buhari speaking about security, which still rank topmost in his agenda. But that's where we'll start today, talking about the state of the nation. We're joined now by Lai Mohammed, the National Publicity Secretary of the APC. Morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Good morning.
Well, let's start off with this because, I mean, it's something he had always talked about while he campaigned, how he really intends to focus and tackle this. And we've also seen him make a lot of visits, the G7, the AU, the Lake Chad Basin Commission, funds have been released. But unfortunately, you will still have over 400 people that have been died, as a matter of fact, in a little over 30 days. Is this approach, because I know you know that so many are watching and waiting to see how soon this can come to an end, but are the strategies working?
Yes, the strategies are working. You see, unfortunately, when you are tackling an insurgency, and the insurgency on its way out, especially as it is today in Boko Haram, you have this, what you call random, opportunistic, bombings and, spike in, individual, isolated bombings. You see, what has really happened is that the Boko Haram organization has been weakened. Before now, they used to hold territories, and they used to be very coordinated in their attacks. As of today, we've succeeded in dislodging them from all the territories where they hold. Today, they are dispersed. So what's really happening now is that they are no longer coordinated, and you have individual attacks. It's a pity that this is happening, but this, anybody who has followed the, who has studied insurgency will understand what we are saying. Well, we feel the pangs of Nigerians, especially the victims and their families and the whole country. But our approach and strategy is the best. For the first time, Nigeria is more methodical. Nigeria is by far much more focused in its fight against terrorism. You see, the stage we are now is a stage where what you need is more of intelligence gathering. And I'm happy that the recent appointments of service chiefs have placed a lot of emphasis on people with intelligence background, starting with the NSA, to the chief of air staff, to the chief of army staff. They all have intelligence background. Now, this is the phase we are in now. And again, when you look at the various steps that we have taken, we have intensified, international collaboration. We put in place what would make us be able to defeat, Boko Haram, much more faster. As of today, the borders are no longer viable for them. As we speak today, you can see that even the multinational joint task force, which was not operative for a long time, is now operative, with the Nigerian even being named as the commander. Incidentally, it's the same person that has not been named.
But I think the last time it was operational, except for, I think it was the Cameroon border area that they say they hadn't had the cooperation of Cameroon at the time.
No, you see, you cannot have a multinational joint task force if one country does not cooperate with you.
So now all the countries
are cooperating to now today the headquarters in N'Djamena. And I think by the end of this month, you will begin to feel the impact of the multinational joint task force. So there's no other way to approach insurgency than the way we are doing, which is, one, putting in place a good intelligence architecture; two, seeking the cooperation of both continental, sub-regional, and even international community. And if you look at the shopping list of the president to the U.S. today, terrorism and security are very high on the list. Yes, we regret the random bombings and killings, but this is to be expected of an insurgency on its way out, because they would now look at soft targets, because they've lost the capacity to run the kind of spectacular attacks they used to launch before.
Now, what some people will say is, okay, you might have a plan in terms of ensuring that the insurgency is curbed. Well, what about the victims of the insurgency? It's not enough to express pity, is it?
No, I think we've done more than that. And I think anybody who has watched in the last couple of weeks, you've seen the Vice President himself, going to visit, the internally displaced, people in their various camps. And I think even the governor of Borno too will be reaching out to the victims. And don't forget, there's also a victim support fund, and which is being, looked into and meticulously.
Well, it was handed over to this administration.
Of course, we inherit both the assets and liability of any government.
What can you tell us about the Victim Support Fund?
I know little or nothing about it. I just know it is there.
Okay, so we know it is there. But
no, you see, I mean, I know it is there. I think it's largely a collaboration between the private sector and government. And I think in that respect, it's better to look at what is the structure. I know recently one of the members resigned. I think that's Mr. Fola Diola. But really, it's not a wholly governmental thing. It's collaboration between the public and the private sector.
why do you think it's shrouded? Because I think several times we've asked questions on this Victim Support Fund. Aside the day when it was launched, I think quite a number of people thought that there would be some appeal to Nigerians, to ensure that everybody is a part of that Victim Support Fund, as we all have responsibility to, what is happening in the Northeast. But it would seem that we've not heard anything, and so some people even wonder whether or not the fund truly exists. We ask you this because we also know that you were a member of the transition committee, so perhaps you were able to get, any kind of information as to where it exists and how it exists.
I don't think part of the handover notes included the Victim Support Fund. I'm very positive it did not include it. We didn't receive anything about it.
Okay. Well, let's get down to this other part, because, I mean, of course, everybody knows so much expectation from this administration. I mean, those days when we were going through your manifesto, I kept on looking, I said, you have a lot in this manifesto. I would hope maybe as soon as that phrase come up, hitting the ground running. But now, there's a lot to talk about appointing ministers. What can you tell us about that?
I think there's so much fixation about appointing ministers.
Rightly or wrongly?
Well, justifiably, I think Nigerians are entitled to be anxious about it. But I think they'll be more worried about, is the government working or is it not working? Two, they should look at the ministerial appointment against the background of the present dispensation. Between 1999 and today, I think averagely it takes between 6 and 7 weeks for the administration to present his list of ministers. I think the earliest person was Obasanjo that did so on 30th of June. Both Yar'Adua and Jonathan did it in the middle of July. But again, you see, you can't compare those situations with us, because in the case of Obasanjo, Yar'Adua, and Jonathan, it was actually either one president succeeding himself or the party succeeding itself. Here is the first time we're having a root and branch, transition, where you have a completely new, the position taking over. Again, we are not going to be stampeded by anybody. You see, this government is not slow. We are deliberate, we are focused, and we are methodical. You see, a government that wants to fight corruption, that wants to improve the economy, must be very careful and painstaking in the choice of who is going to be his ministers, because you need just not people with competence, but also with integrity. And I think again, coupled with the politics of Nigeria, I'm talking about geopolitics, I'm talking about religion, you have to be very careful. But I think the question Nigerians should ask themselves, is the government working or not? Is there movement, or is this just motion? And I must say that with all sense of humility, this government hit the ground running. Because you see, we campaigned on 3 major issues: security, the economy, and anti-corruption.
Okay, maybe let's start with the economy.
The economy
is it moving? Because I mean,
absolutely,
the Naira is still spiraling.
Absolutely. You see, how you ask us, how's the economy moving? Of course, the economy is moving. You see, the economic stimulus package, which of course people have have been calling bailout, is one of the most important policy decisions ever taken by any government. we came into this government on May 29th, and we had about 18 states that were owing salaries somewhere between 3 to 10 months. And we believe that the first thing to do was to avoid any industrial crisis and to stimulate the economy, was to come out with this stimulus package, which people are now calling bailout.